Guys, my name is Joshua Koerner, and in this video we're going to be talking about the user experience comparison review between the Alpha 6300 and the A7 III. So these are two cameras that I own, so I've had lots of experience with the both of them. Obviously way more with the Alpha 6300 since I've had that one for much longer, but I've tried to use my A7 III as much as humanly possible, even though I end up deleting just about everything. It's still a lot of fun to just use and kind of get the hang of. Because of that, I have a pretty good idea, I feel like, of what it's like for a user. So hopefully I'll be bringing a pretty good perspective for you. The Alpha 6000, the Alpha 6300, they're kind of interchangeable in this video, and that's because they're both small and light. Their lenses are largely small and light. They have some great features. They both can shoot 11 frames per second. They both are pretty good actually in low light situations if you can get a fast enough lens on there. I've shot in the complete darkness with my Alpha 6300 with an f1.4 lens on it. Before I got the A7 III, I really thought the ergonomics of the Alpha 6300 and 6000, I have a buddy that has one and I've used his a bit, are really on par with those of the Canon cameras that I've had and used. The T5, my partners, the XS, the Rebel XS from forever ago that I used to shoot on, and even the 6D, I thought the ergonomics were pretty similar, and a lot of that's just because it's a lot smaller and a lot lighter, and you don't need it as big of a hand grip when you don't need to put as much effort into holding on to it in the first place. So ergonomics is a concept that is different for everybody. The Alpha 6300 and the A7 III are very ergonomical for me. They might not be for you. I have found though that the A7 III is a bit more ergonomic, and part of that is just the ease of working with it is helped immensely when you don't have to change the battery as much. The battery life in the Alpha 6000 series cameras is poor at best, but with the Alpha 6300 you're getting a 4K image a 6K image downsampled to 4K, and it's fantastic, it's beautiful. So there are some really great upsides to these devices as well. And the Alpha 6000 is really cheap to get into. It's like 550 bucks. That's pretty good. That might even be with a lens, especially on a good sale. The A7 III I find is mid-size, mid-weight. It's a lot lighter in most situations than my 6D with the 24-105 on it. And the only lens that I have for it is the 28-75 f2.8. So I'm getting a full stop more and the weight's less. So that's kind of nice. The lenses for the A7 III are anywhere from very small, like the 55 f1.8, or the 28 f2, to very big, like the upcoming 400 f2.8, or the 100 to 400, or the 70 to 200 f2.8. So you can adjust the size and weight on the A7 III to exactly what you want it to be. The A7 III is pretty well great for everything. The Alpha 6300 is best for video. It does okay with stills, does really well for stills, honestly, but I feel like its strong suit is video. So when you're thinking about that's really great. When you think about how the A7 III doesn't on paper have a spec difference, it's really remarkably different apart from the 425 to 693 on sensor phase detect autofocus points. The difference is in the sensor. The sensor in the A7 III is backside illuminated. It's a brand new sensor in a lot of ways, right? So modern architecture, modern design, and you're gonna get much better low light performance out of it. And Sony's adjusted the color science, so it's a bit of a more natural rendition of skin tones and things along those lines. I find that through the picture profiles, I can adapt really effectively, actually, a picture profile to match the output that I want it to be. So I've never had a problem or an issue with the color profiles on the Alpha 6300. So like I said a minute ago, the Alpha 6300 is best suited for video. The stills buffer at 11 FPS is something along the lines of like 2.2 seconds. Not even. It can shoot something like 19 to 22 frames before it locks up. Then it locks up for a pretty long time because it only has a UHS 1 card slot in it. The A7 III, you can shoot for 5+ seconds and you'll barely touch the buffer, which is nice. And then the UHS 2 card really pushes those through if you have a UHS 2 card. If you do have a camera that has that functionality, I'd recommend, getting one of those cards because they're really good. But the big thing is that I'm a little bit ragging on the Alpha 6000, Alpha 6300, but really, for most people, for most applications, they're going to be the absolute perfect camera. They have incredible flexibility. The a6000, 50 megabits per second, 1080p 60 video in the XAVCS codec. That's long GOP, yes. That's a bit of a downside, yes. No mic in, that's a bit of a downside, yes. But you can go so far because that codec is good enough. A lot of modern video editing softwares have a way to sync up your audio in post, so you don't even have to worry about it if you capture off-camera audio. So between that, the stills functionality, the flexibility, the size, the a6000, the a6300 really does do well against the a7 III in my opinion, because you might be a little bit more likely to take it more places, and it's a lot cheaper. On the other hand though, the a7 III is sublime. It really is. When I got it, I was like, it really took me a minute to pull the trigger, because I was like, this is on paper, no, really different from my 6300, just full frames. I really love larger sensors, and that's what won me over. And so once I got into it, you know, the reason I got it was for the bigger sensor. The fact that the spec sheet looked really similar to my a6300 was a bit of a bother, especially for the price point, but the a7 III's turned out to be sublime. The fact that I don't have to change a battery for 3 days the way that I shoot it is so nice. And that's with 30, 45 minutes of video that's thrown in there with a, you know, completely random number of stills. It can be a bit of a pain to lug around some of the bigger, heavier lenses, but my focus has always been on primes, and although I have a 2.8 zoom now, my focus will be on primes in the future. So I don't feel like the a7 III was a bad decision for me, and I feel like it's been a much bigger difference from the a6300 than I realized it would be because of the sensor. The autofocus performance is nice, but that sensor really makes all the difference. But all that being said, you know, the a6000, the a6300 are still fantastic cameras, and I really think that you should think about those if, you know, that's what you're looking for. So yeah, thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one.